Okay, if we're going on that.
Going on that
Want
one?
to do an introduction?
Sure.
That one going?
We're
Live?
We're ready.
We are live.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chad Novak. I'm here today to answer to the Novak Uncovered blog website for the answers regarding the Queen City Cruising. And I'm here with Adam, who's been...
I run the Silver Beast Twitter account, so you get a look at me now. And I've been asked by Novak Uncovered to see if I could ask the questions as an impartial interviewer on it, because I've taken both sides on occasion. I've given him shit when I felt it was due, and I've backed him when I felt he was right. So we're ready to go, and these questions are all going to be about Chilligate and the Queen City Cruise-In, Prairie Soul production, and we're not developing into anything political beyond that.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
But I have not seen the questions before, so...
And these questions were just simply provided to me from Novak Uncovered. For the record, do you agree the claim to donate $1 per ride to Chili for Children was indeed made to the public on multiple occasions?
Depends on what we want to say as multiple, but yes, it was on more than one occasion. It was on the press release, and now I've seen that it was on the South Racing blog, or whatever it was, the South Motorsports Forum, so...
Do you understand then how the people would believe $1 per ride would be donated to Chili for Children?
I don't believe that's a fair statement, because beyond those publications, I never advertised it past that point, and there was never a publication or in the advertisement, for example, it was never advertised that there was $1 per ride going to the Chili for Children. So that was my original intent, and I originally had planned that because I thought it was something that would help promote the event. But once I saw that the media really didn't do anything with the media release, and really there wasn't much response getting back from that social aspect.
You had assumed the city hadn't taken notice of it.
Well, I mean, something I assumed. I mean, obviously I know people are going to be taking awareness of it, but I mean, honestly, at that point in time, the only time it ever really came to question was after the event was complete.
Is it true after Chilligate was revealed that you altered a February 2nd post titled Second Annual Queen City Cruise-In on your Chad 2012 Blogspot website, removing the $1 per ride claim?
Yes, I did.
You did remove that?
Yes, I did.
And you had reason to do that. What was your reason?
Like I explained to Nathan in an email, I just said that basically I just didn't want this thing to turn into something that it really didn't need to. I mean, like I said, it was, as far as I was concerned, there was no individuals that ever rode the truck with an understanding that any money of that $5 was going to any charity. It wasn't advertised at the space and everything like that. So I was like, you know what? It was one of my learning processes. You know, I went and did it just because I thought it was just get it out of the way. And obviously, I realized that people take this thing a lot more seriously than I had imagined. So,
Well, you must understand they pay a lot of attention to you. There's lots of people that pay attention.
That's the question. I don't know. I mean, I can judge it on my website views. I can judge it on people that give me feedback, but I don't honestly know how many people pay that close attention. I mean, obviously, I know that there's going to be the quote-unquote haters that pay attention to me out there, but I couldn't tell you how many followers I have in the city or anything like that. But I do know that my name is a household name in Regina, so I mean that seems to be a good thing sometimes.
How many website views would you get in a week like this week, for example?
Well, since the beginning of the website, I've had 140,000 page views. I don't know if that means hits or whatever. I'm not that technological.
Probably individual page views.
Yeah. So, but an average week, depending on the controversial issue that comes up, it could be between 10 and 100 to 500 views a day. So,
Day. What was the reason for not donating $1 per ride to Chili for Children?
just because that was going to come out of my own pocket. It wasn't something that I arranged with the Monster Truck owner, because that was something that I thought was out of my own good. And in the end, the event lost a lot of money, because not only did I not receive the city funding that I was anticipating, but also some of my sponsors pulled out because they had received calls from individuals in the city saying, "What are you doing? You don't know that." And so I lost that opportunity to have
So
fun.
essentially, there was no money.
There was no money to get together, yeah.
The event didn't make money.
No.
It didn't have any money.
You know, I took a big hit in personal loss, and I'm accepting that because it's only the second year for the event.
So that should almost answer the next question all about. What is the decision, or was the decision not to donate $1 per ride to Chili for Children made before, during, or after the Queen City Cruise in?
Oh, well before.
Well before?
Yeah, because like I said, like I published it in February, and I think it was March that I decided that that was just something I shouldn't continue going forward with because...
You had issued numerous press releases and messages on social media pertaining to the Queen City Cruise in. Considering how popular your blog site is and Twitter feed are, why did you not make the public aware of your decision to rescind the donation of $1 per ride?
Be honest, because I didn't hear any feedback on it. I didn't, like I said, until after the event actually occurred and people began creating this Chilligate thing, nobody ever said anything about the $1 per ride, and I didn't think it was even really noticed by anybody. Not that it was something I could just get away with. It's just like, well, nobody seemed to care, so what's the point of continuing talking about it?
Who collected the $5 per ride for the Jurassic Monster Truck rides?
That would be the owner of the Jurassic Attack.
So the Jurassic Attack staffed the table?
100%.
100%. They took the $5 per ride to cover their cost.
Exactly. Yeah. And I received zero money back from them. But the arrangement was that if they made a certain amount, that I would get a cut of it. But unfortunately, the advertising again, the budget
So
wasn't
you
there.
were hoping to make a certain amount,
Exactly.
and then out of that extra amount, you would have been able to make your donation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know or can estimate how many Jurassic Monster Truck rides were sold? Did they give you a report on that?
They did. I could probably guesstimate between 500 and 1,000. So.
Okay. The next question here says, why wouldn't that be statistic be of interest to your organization? I think it would be of interest to you.
It would be, but I mean, honestly, like I had said to people, I had so many things going on in my life. I still do. You know, at that point in time, I was focusing on getting a job because I've been unemployed for almost a year. So, I mean, that was taking the priority of my mindset. And yes, I can use all those statistics for future purposes, but honestly, at this point in time, it doesn't provide any benefit for me at this point in time until I go and make those calculations for future events and things like that. So.
I think the people should give you a little bit of credit. I mean, who else has brought a monster truck to the city? I think that is
Exactly.
one feather in your cap.
Thank you. That's one thing I'm trying to be, is trying to be different. Like I've always, you know, I mean, sometimes it's been controversial and so be it, but I think that that's something that needs to happen in this city.
Is Prairie Soul Productions holding donations intended for children in trust? And if so, would you care to divulge how much it is? I think we know the answer already.
Well, since I lost money in the event, there is no money being held. Well, to be honest, there's about $130 in the bank account right now being used intentionally for next year.
Monster chair raffle. Who won it?
The winner, I gave it to the monster truck owners because I felt that it was, first of all, we didn't receive much in the donations from it. We received maybe $24. And second of all, I felt that that was based on a lot of the ordeals that happened on that weekend. They lost a lot of revenue opportunities. I thought it was fair compensation to give it to them. Yeah, I understand that that's not necessarily the way the raffle was intended to go, but.
Do you understand why people think Chilligate is a big deal?
That to me is all relative to exactly how popular I am out there or how many followers I have. Honestly, I'm realizing now that there's, you know, it's hard to really take it as seriously as I think it should. I mean, the way I look at it is if people are taking this seriously, they should also be taking other events seriously and other politicians seriously and asking these hard questions. I mean, I would love it if people would take this kind of issue on, say, for example, the issue that I brought out about our former mayor. You know, things like that. Question those things. And, you know, I mean, rightfully so. I guess that's something that I've been pushing for is transparency and accountability. And I realize that kind of, you know, holds me to a higher standard in that sense.
Well, you've been very vocal on Twitter, on your blog. You've been very controversial. You've ruffled some feathers. I think you should know that they're paying attention to you, whether they like you or not.
Mhm.
And they're gonna take opportunities to attack you if they can. Your blog, you said you had that post up there from February 2nd to probably August 5th, I think was the date.
Yeah, sometime in the
But
summer.
you got thousands of people paying attention to it over a period of time, so.
Well, to be fair, the Queen City Cruising website is where that was advertised. I don't think it was on my Chad for Regina. It might have been on my Chad for Regina, but the Queen City Cruising website never really got nearly as many hits as the Chad for Regina, because not a lot of people knew about it, so.
Total different line of questions coming now. Do you believe, while acting as promotions director for the Regina Auto Racing Club, it was appropriate to speak about taking over the presidency of the club and applying for the Kings Park Speedway lease when the current one expires?
Well, like I've said to people, I like to talk a lot more than some of my actions, and that might have been something that I should have obviously have kept under my hat more than what I spoke about. It's just that there is a lot of people out there that involved with the Regina Auto Racing Club themselves that feel that it needs to be run better and it needs to run more like a business. And so that was the mindset behind it. I mean, yeah, I probably overstepped some of my boundaries sometimes, but honestly, there's no rules written in that organization that I've seen. I've tried asking numerous times for that stuff. So I mean, to me, it just seemed like a fly-by-night thing, even though it's been around for almost 50 years.
Well, it's.
So
I race there, just
Yeah.
so people know. I race there. I've done some announcing there. I did the truck announcing. I've done some racing announcing.
and a good job at that.
It's a small organization, I
Yeah.
think, is what you got to realize. And those things are challenging when they're being run mostly by volunteers. What impact or influence did Nathan Clifton have on your February multi-stream grant application?
None, because he wasn't really even a part of the event at that point in time.
So then what impact or influence did Nathan Clifton have on your May urgency grant application?
The budget was more streamlined around Nathan's handwritten budget that he had provided me. He had sponsorship levels and things like that. It was more streamlined around that. As far as I was aware, Nathan knew that his name was being included on the thing. I would not. That's not something I would do as on a personal level. Is I would not include someone on something that they don't have a cognizance of. So in that sense, I mean, he definitely had an influence on the May one, because that was after we started meeting with the city in terms of what we could do to, make our application better and more palatable for the city.
In regards to your multi-stream grant application, what is the difference between a staff member and a volunteer?
The way I look at it, I know this is definitely not the standard way of doing things, and everybody knows I don't do things the standard way, is I wanted to have volunteers that got paid for their efforts. And I know that sounds just like, what's the difference between having a staff member then? I want people to come forward, work, and help out, not realize that they're going to get paid for whatever they're doing, and then, end up compensating them for the time. Because I feel
A
that
little bit of an honorarium or something?
yeah, and we've seen with Regina Auto Racing Club, like you have a volunteer, it's thankless, and I think that there needs to have an organization where those people get something in the end, more than just a thank you, something that, because I mean, these people are taking their time, they're taking their efforts and their mindsets, and some people have some amazing ideas, and they should be fairly treated for that, so. Can't be a flat rate for each person, because each person contributes different things.
During the event, how many volunteers did the Queen City Cruise-In have?
During the event itself or during the whole planning?
We'll go
There
with the
was
7-day event.
Maybe 5 or 10.
5 to 10?
Yeah.
Including yourself, how many staff members did Prairie Soul Productions have dedicated to the Queen City Cruise-In at the time of submitting the multi-stream application, February 21st or something like that? And at the time, how many staff members would you have ideally liked to hire?
Well, again, I don't like to use the term hiring the staff, because I mean, in my mind, the staff isn't your traditional paid staff. it was volunteers that would come forward and get compensated for their time. So I mean, in that sense, that's why I use the term staff. Back in February, we had, I think, 5 people helping out with just the whole idea of brainstorming session, everything like that. Ideally, I would have loved to have at least 20 people getting all these mindsets together, different perspectives. I'm a drag racing guy, you're a drag racing guy, and there's people with stock cars, and there's people with, and that was the whole idea, is that this event was not supposed to be strictly a car show. And in 2014, we're going to notice that big change in terms of what it truly wants to be. And I think this is where Nathan and myself kind of saw different things where, I want it to be more focused around motorsports. And that's definitely different than what he saw, and that's fine, but I mean, I want to have it so that, monster truck, I love monster trucks, I grew up around them, and they're my obsession, I'm wearing my Monster Jam shirt today, so, I've driven a monster truck, which is the freaking coolest thing ever, and I want to give people those kind of experiences, riding in a monster truck, things like that, so, in the end, I don't even remember what the question was.
On to the next one.
I get like that sometimes.
Around February 21st, you submitted your multi-stream application with a rough labor budget of $27,500. In an email 22 days later, this estimate was reduced to $1,500. Why was the initial estimate so high?
Honestly, just because I threw a number in there.
In the same email, you quoted a budget for the entire event at $21,000. Why was the multi-stream budget less than a month prior, nearly 3 times that amount?
Again, really honestly, there's 2 numbers in there because it was my sole mindset putting that together. I had never done an application before, so other than the last year. And I thought I threw something together that I thought would be appealing. So
You emphasized the Queen City Cruise-In displaying and celebrating Regina's automotive heritage. How did it do so?
well, that was the intention. It never got to happen. I want to focus on what Regina has a rich history in the automobile. For those people that don't know, we had the GM plant here since 1929. It had its ups and downs and ended up turning into Government of Canada war production facility and all that kind of stuff. And it's still, the facility is still there. So I mean, I think that that's something I want to celebrate. Capital GM has a long, rich history in Regina. It was once known as one of the top 10 places in Canada for taking your vehicle to get serviced and all that stuff. So I mean, it was that kind of rich history that I wanted to celebrate. In the end, I just didn't have the time or the manpower to really put any effort into that, to make it to where I wanted it to be. I didn't want to do it half-assed, so had I got the funding from the city or from other organizations that had pulled their funding, it definitely would have been different.
So a little bit of lack of time, a little bit of lack of money.
Yeah, and manpower.
And manpower.
Yeah.
In your multi-stream and on your social media, you put significant emphasis on the rich local automotive history Regina has, considering the lead-up time to the second Queen City Cruise-In. The assumed fact that you were well aware of the history, the fact that you didn't have a full-time job at the time, the mayoral campaign had ended, why wouldn't you put a simple display together?
Like I said, I didn't want to do it half-assed. I mean, to me, I hold myself to a higher standard than I do for anybody else. I want to make something, when it goes out there, I want to make it a high quality type of thing. So I'd rather would have put more focus into making 2 or 3 things happen in a high quality fashion rather than 10 things happening in my version of a half-ass. Or other people might have taken it as a high quality, but that's just my personal belief. So.
Besides materials to produce such a display, do you know how much it would have cost?
For the display?
For the display to celebrate the automotive
That would have been
history Regina has?
something. That would have been something I would have taken more in detailed look in terms of what it would have cost to get where I wanted it to be, had I received any funding. So I think I threw a ballpark out there of 10,000, but I can't remember exactly. So.
Slightly different style here. Let's see. You state the initial purpose of the Prairie Soul Productions is based on the idea of providing an alternative life option for children and youth, particularly those at risk or in compromised living situations. Since its inception, we've spent a great deal of time formulating and developing our mandate. No, that's in quotes there. In your multi-stream application, you mentioned helping at-risk youth 13 separate times. How did the Queen City Cruise-In provide life skill and career options for at-risk youth?
Well, again, because we did not receive the funding or we lost other funding opportunities, we didn't have the opportunities to put those together. My intention was to approach organizations like North Central Community Association, Souls Harbor, all of these organizations that exist already that focus on those at-risk youth and get them involved in terms of participating in the planning of the event, participating in the execution of the event, and then getting some benefit out of it and having some fun with it. I just didn't, again, I know it sounds stupid, but I didn't have the time to really execute a lot of that stuff. And, and like Nathan said, it doesn't seem to be something that we really should be focusing on. And I still believe that we should, because that's a personal belief. I'd like to remember where I came from. I wasn't an at-risk youth, but I remember I came up from nothing in Moose Jaw. My family, so it's not like I'm trying to say that we were welfare bums. We didn't grow up with very much. There was 4 kids, and I remember that. And I want to provide an option for these youth in Regina that don't get that option. It's something different. So.
I've had the chance to curl with his nephew, actually, James. And James is going off to Sochi. He's going to be an ice maker at the Olympics. So that's a pretty good accomplishment for him to come out of a small town and head off to Russia to handle the Olympic ice for curling.
Absolutely.
What efforts did Prairie Soul Productions make to recruit the at-risk and underprivileged youth volunteers for assisting in the planning and execution of the Queen City Cruise-In?
Like I said, it would have been going through those organizations, but again, I didn't have the time around here to really put an effort into that. So
in the end, how many at-risk or underprivileged youth were involved in the planning and execution of the Queen City Cruise-In?
No.
Didn't get any?
No.
What First Nations communities did Prairie Soul Productions approach in regard to the Queen City Cruise-In?
None that we actually approached. We had intentions of approaching some, but
Never approached them.
no.
You stated that there's been a dramatic decrease in the local automotive industries business over the last decade.
No.
In this time frame, many local dealers have expanded their premises, like the big guys, the Fords and Chevys, and we have seen an increase in accessory retail sales. Can you clarify the issue in the decrease of local automotive industry?
It is more of the small guys. I've talked to several smaller organizations, not necessarily dealers, because dealers, that's a whole other industry really, because it's affected by the global market, whereas like the aftermarket accessories, things like that. I've talked to these businesses and they said, we've noticed a significant decrease in our sales over the last decade. Yeah, they may try and increase their lines to increase their business, but they want to have a fair piece of the market in Regina. So that was what I was working to help them with.
Why do you think there was a lack of interest in Regina's automotive industry in the Queen City Cruise-In?
Controversy.
Controversy. Plain and simple controversy?
Long and short of it is controversy. There's a lot more behind that, but I don't think that we really need to even get into that. It's just everything that really surrounds me. Chad Novak, when they hear that out there, if there's people that don't like me because I've pissed them off in the past, they'll make every effort in the world to make me sound like or make my event sound like something that shouldn't be taking part in.
To date, what has Prairie Soul Productions done to provide Regina and area with additional sport and recreational activities?
Well, I guess the definition of sport and recreation is subjective for some people. Like, some people don't consider auto racing as a recreation or a sport. I do, and I think those
I
guys
do.
You do or don't?
I think it's recreational. Absolutely.
It is. It is. To me, it's a tremendous opportunity for people to get out there and spend their free time doing something productive. In terms of the mechanics of it, you get to learn hands-on knowledge that can be applicable for the real world, things like that. So that's where I think that I keep going off the topic and trying to forget what was the.
What Prairie Soul Productions has done to provide Regina area with additional sports and recreational activities.
That's basically the idea. Is Prairie Soul is existing strictly to do motorsports productions, and what motorsports productions in my mind is events like you see on TV, the Monster Jam series, things like that. You know, an independent organization that brings these type of events together, give people the opportunity to partake in them as a participant. In terms of, you know, helping with the, like in, say in monster trucks, for example, they always need more pit crew to help out, just a volunteer basis to come in there and, you know, put tires on or wrench on some stuff that anybody can really do. Things like that. So that's where Prairie Soul comes into the whole equation. The long-term goal is to get it so that it's at a point that it can be a continual organization that does that.
In both grant applications, the multi-stream and the urgency grant, the majority of funding was hoped to come from taxpayers, various levels. Why do you think it is the taxpayers' responsibility to fund the majority of the Queen City Cruise In, and not, for example, the automotive industry in which you're trying to promote?
Well, to be quite honest, what I was basing it off of was a couple of things. One was off of similar applications that the city had already approved. People know that they have an issue with the South Fashion Week. And if you look at their budget, you see that they had a significant amount of money coming from various levels of government, city, provincial, through their crowns, all that kind of stuff. And we know that there's a reason why, and I won't get into those details here. Yes, they also had private industry behind them, but again, a lot of that was because of the connections that the people had. So technically, they didn't go out of their way to get those businesses to come on board. It was almost like, well, hey, Adam, you have this business coming, you know, I'm going to know you, so that kind of thing. You know, that
Insider
was...
dealing then?
I wouldn't put it that way. You know, no, it's just friends that own businesses and they know a way to play the game.
Do you think your lack of ability to raise sufficient funds, for whatever reasons, demonstrates that perhaps you are not the right person for this job?
No, I just know that I rub people the wrong way sometimes, and I don't ever apologize for that, because there's a reason why I do what I do. I put an image out there that is, as people meet me in person, they know that the person that I put out on Twitter or on social media isn't always the same person that I am. I do that for a reason. I do that for a purpose. Traditional politicians, traditional people in business would say that's ridiculous, that's the wrong way to do it, but you know what? I'd say I like to do things differently, and if it costs me things like that, so be it. I'm willing to accept that.
You must be going somewhere with it. Terry Hinks voted for that.
Terry Hanks only did that for one reason only, and you know, I'm pretty sure you know why. It's just because he wanted to show that, I'm trying to support you, and we won't go with it.
That's the end of the Novak Uncovered questions. Anything else you'd like to address or have addressed?
Well, I want to make sure that people know that the Queen City Cruise In will be happening again in 2014. I have full intentions to bring it back. Prairie Soul Productions will be changing formats, though. I'm changing it into a for-profit, because the original not-for-profit setup was strictly intended for a couple of purposes. One was because I created it during the 2012 election, I wanted it so that it wasn't a source of controversy in terms of, well, Chad, you can create something that you can get a conflict of interest with, and you can personally benefit from, let's say, for the stadium, for example. I brought in the events in the stadium.